Now, the actress and Loose Women panellist Denise Welch believes that this is the result of scaremongering by many in the media and government, and she joins us today alongside our very own Dr. Sarah Kaya to explain more on all of this. Denise, why have you got talking about this? Why do you feel you want to articulate this? Because you know, as you do, this is only your opinion. This is not the facts and figures being given to us by the government, or the interpretation, which I think you've got the main problem with by the media. Why are you putting your head above the parapets on this?
Well, to be honest, Eamon, I disagree with you there, if I may, because everything I do put out is actually based on the government's facts and figures. And I have taken a lot of criticism for this, but I've never felt so passionate about anything in my life. As you know, and Ruth knows very well, that I have been very outspoken as a mental health advocate for 31 years. So everything that I do, publicly or on Twitter of this nature, is trying to find a parity between how we deal with physical illness and how we deal with mental illness on the same level. And I have been shocked and appalled by the way the government and indeed our media have represented this virus to people. We now have the collateral damage where depression, clinical depression, that's major depressive disorder, has doubled in this country as a result of it. Anorexia is nearly doubled in young people because they feel like they're out of control of their lives. And basically for 5 months now, we have had a rolling death count every day. We've never had one for the 500 that die of cancer every day. We've never had one for 180 people who die of heart disease every day, or 20 plus at the moment who are dying of suicide every day. Now, of course we haven't, but if we did, we'd all have been locked up because we couldn't be able to deal with it. But funnily enough, as things have improved drastically over the few months, I noticed that I didn't see the other day when the news starts, bong, nobody dies in the UK because of a corona-related illness. No, what we have is, bong, fears rise as spikes reach 1,075 positive tests a day. So if you're going to frighten us with how many were dying every day, please enlighten us and tell us how things have improved, that when no one is dying. Because as a mental health person, and if people want to say she's on about that again, I don't care, because of the people that it does help, is that I will do anything to help balance the fear-mongering. The other day, it said universities could become the care homes of the second wave. How dare they? And then it cuts to a clip of two presenters sitting going, it's terrifying, isn't it, to think that they're saying now that universities might become the care home. Just as these young people on the threshold of their life are going back to university. It's absolutely disgraceful.
But Denise, I think...
Well, I'm here with the lovely Amy as usual, my lovely Amy.
Oh, lovely Karen. Yes.
Oh my God, I just saw this in my feed. I said, I've got to play it. I think I know exactly what she's getting into, even if, oh no, Louise, what's her name, Denise, no.
Yes.
What this woman's trying to do is, she's trying to tell us that everything is out of proportion, that something that's on such a small scale that it would have to, it's one in thousands or millions to get, is put at the most important bit, when she understands about the mental health side, that the mental health, well, the other side isn't being looked after at all, and because of all this lockdown, a lot of these facilities aren't open. She even later on talks about like treatments for cancer, but when we get to that bit, Amy, I know you'll come in.
Oh, yes.
What do you want to say about that opening statement?
Well, Denise is telling people that, like you said, it's out of and this fear-mongering, and if you even use the numbers that the CDC gives us, the whole thing is not that serious. If people do get this, the likelihood they're going to survive is very and they haven't even had any deaths. And this is straight from the, I guess the health organization. She's taken the numbers right from what they're telling you. It's not that serious. It's not that bad. And yet they're just taking and using this to just create so much fear in the people. And, it's causing terrible mental health effects in people. And, mental health does affect your physical health as well. And so she's just trying to give them their own numbers. And she said, that there hasn't been deaths, and that's a great thing. But instead, they don't want to focus on the positive. They just want to keep it going and scare people that are going back to university. And it's just
hitting pockets, like hitting that area, hitting that area. Hitting that area, yeah, and we're not, and the people aren't realising what's going on because it's always moving to their agenda, more like. But anyway, should we go on to the next bit, Amy?
Yes, Karen.
Thank you so much for that, Amy. Well said.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
There will be people watching this who are vulnerable people, who have family members who are vulnerable, who've been shielding. And they will say it is those very young people that you're talking about who are going and not social distancing, not wearing their masks. They don't suffer too badly from COVID, but taking it back home.
I feel a little bit frustrated already, Amy, because it is obvious to anybody who's awake what she's talking about. And she's frustrated as it is because they've obviously must have talked about this before they came on air, and don't forget they're in the same programme together called Loose Women, which is a TV programme talking about things in life. So Eamon Holmes' wife interviewing knows that she's into mental health. They know each other on a personal level probably. But we know what she's talking about, and it's just frustrating because the person that comes on is always made to look the fool almost, aren't they?
Oh, exactly. And they're just trying to keep her from putting out the point that she's trying.
I don't even know why they're letting her do it.
I know.
She must have said, if I can't have my point of view, righty row, because she's got contracts with ITV and stuff. I don't know. Well, she's had contracts. Maybe she's slapped them with something legal.
It sounds that way, Karen. Maybe so. But they're trying to shut down what she's saying. I get that.
Yeah, and that's her friends.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, anyway, should we carry on, Amy, to the next bit, because there's loads to go through. It was quite intense, actually.
Yes, it is, Karen.
That's,
Ruth, I'm not saying about the social distancing. I'm not, the thing is, because if you talk about this, which is the truth. So the other day, if I put something out, which is everything I do, I have researched. I can't tell you how important this is to me. And another thing I'd like to point out, Ruth and Eamon and Sarah, is that I asked ITV if they would like to sign an NDA today so that I can show them the amount of NHS doctors, nurses, dentists who are coming to me, a T-list celebrity according to megastar Piers Morgan, I'm basically telling the truth. So I was saying the other day, 2,800 people were on ventilators where coronavirus was involved at the peak. The other day, 52 were. To me, that is good news as how we have moved forward. I'm not saying this is over. I am not saying how horrendous this virus is and was. But at the moment, we have a 1 in 2 million chance of dying of COVID. And I have a 1 in 3 chance of getting cancer.
Feel very frustrated for her, don't you?
Yes. Oh, I know.
You see, we've already realised that she's trying to direct it through a viewpoint to get her point.
Exactly.
She's not trying to use whether it's real or not, although she obviously has her own opinion.
Right, yeah, exactly.
It's quite frustrating, isn't it, listening that you're pushed that far when what she's trying to show is that the statistics show that it's so low.
Oh,
we shouldn't be where we are.
Exactly. If you just use the statistics that they are giving you, it's not. We shouldn't be all panic-stricken about this thing. But the people that, like my family that believe in it, if you said, "Oh, it's such a high survival rate, even if you do get it," oh, how dare you say such a thing? You know, it's like they want it to be this horrible thing. I just don't get it.
Do they want this thing to take us over and kill us?
It sounds like it, doesn't it?
We're in a horror movie then. But it's not my horror movie, because I don't see it like that.
I hope it would.
That's all I want to say, and Amy's agreement with me. Anyway, on to the next bit, Amy.
So please, can the government
please,
tell us the proper
what do you want?
statistics?
Yeah, what do you want the government to do? You're obviously, clearly very passionate about it, obviously very angry about it. What do you want them to do? Because they will say that they are listening to the advice from health professionals, won't they? And they are going on that. They're going on numbers, advice, looking at other European countries where there are spikes. What do you want them to do?
Yeah, there are spikes, Ruth, can I just say, at the moment, and I'm talking about at the moment, not when the flu season starts, I'm talking about at the moment, these spikes are positive tests. At the moment, they are not leading to increased hospitalizations and deaths. Also, a very, very, very high up doctor who came to me via direct message on Twitter was telling me about the failures within this testing system and how it is picking up old coronaviruses that may have been someone that was positive 6 weeks ago that's not infectious. So if we have a government that can snap their fingers and put us into lockdown, have the decency to explain why and to explain the testing. Have the decency as to why so many people were put down as a COVID death when they hadn't even been tested. Have the decency to explain why if you tested positive for COVID-19, within 6 weeks, if you die in a car accident, you're put down as a COVID death. My mum died a horrendous death from cancer 8 years ago. When she died, she had pneumonia. She didn't die of pneumonia, she died of cancer. So all I'm saying is, answer the questions. I'm not saying what to do. I've been told many times, you're not an immunologist. Of course I'm not. But I'm also not putting anything out that I'm not hearing from NHS doctors and nurses who cannot speak out.
OK, well, let's see if we can provide any of these answers to you with our doctor, Dr. Sarah.
I actually call that patronising. Yeah, she's a little bit more irate than them, but she knew that they didn't, or she knew she was going to have to battle it out before she even started. And she's trying to do more than most people by saying that there's something wrong, and they're patronising her, and that's her friends.
Exactly. That's terrible.
She probably realised she is a little bit more heightened up and a little bit emotional about it, and they're not so emotional about it. But, yeah, all credit to her for having a go, I say, even if she can't tell the whole truth.
Yes, me too. I say the same thing.
Because at least she's showing that there's something not right.
Right. Yes, good for her.
Anything else you want to say, Amy?
I'm just proud of her that she's speaking out and trying to bring some kind of sanity into this whole thing and point out what's
reality.
Yes, reality. She is, yes.
Can't use one figure without using the rest, otherwise it's biased.
Right. That's exactly right.
Okay, on to the next bit now, Amy.
Okay.
You've listened to a very impassionate Denise there. She says she's not a conspiracy theorist, she's not an anti-vaxxer, she's not extremely right-wing on all of this. She just says...
Extremely right-wing? I'm not remotely right-wing, Eamon.
OK, I'm only using your quote back at you, right? So just calm down, right? And we'll try and get the doctor to see if she can give you some answers to this. Right, doctor?
I think there's always going to be bias in the media. So you'll always have a statistic saying, you know, one paper will say the cases are on the rise, there is a spike. The exact same figures will be taken by another media outlet, which will say, we're improving our testing and we're therefore able to track and trace and isolate better. I think for me, it's really important that we look at the death rates, we look at the number of hospitalizations, the number of people on ventilators, and those are on the decrease despite the spikes in number of cases, which usually indicates that actually we are managing to actually track and trace and isolate as well as we'd like. But I do also think that there is so much to this virus we don't know still. Yes, it's been around, you know, since December, and we're getting more knowledge, but we don't know how our immune system is going to work in terms of our antibodies, whether we will be immune to it, for how long we're going to be immune to it. And we also don't know how it's going to affect us come the winter. and when the flu season and other winter viruses come around. So I do think we still need to be cautious, but there are positives that we are learning from this. And I can see why Denise is upset in terms of mental health, because it's taking a huge toll on mental health. And, you know, I've seen it even in clinics, and I've seen how my patients are suffering with it. But I think we do still need to be cautious. We do still need to practice social distancing, wearing masks, washing hands.
Well, a nice, pretty young doctor who's actually on the fence. That's what I heard. There's a bit more to come yet, but she's not going against her, she's not going with her. But she's on the fence. But she's using both sides. Do you think that, Amy? Because...
Yes, both sides, yes.
And... yeah, that's what I think.
Right, she's trying to say, well, the media is biased, they're gonna, one might show this.
So why don't they stand up, Amy? Why don't they stand up and say it?
Exactly, but she's, like you said, she's trying to kind of play both sides. She's more for the media, I think that she's trying to seem like she's given consideration to what Denise is saying. So she's playing both sides.
Anyway, we'll go on with the video because she says a bit more, doesn't she, Amy?
Yes, Kim.
See, Denise, this is all quite complicated because this is a time of national emergency.
Oh my God, Amy, what did he just say? Like, this woman has just said all that and then he goes and says that.
And then he's got to say national emergency and everything.
So who's going to be listening to who? These people are big on the morning show. They've just said it's a national emergency when she's just trying to be saying it's not.
I know. I guess he's got to stick with the narrative, you know.
So you can see why she's irate then, can't you?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
On with the next bit, Amy.
And as I know from myself at the start of all of this, you're not allowed to question the narrative on such things. So there are restrictions on publications, there are restrictions on broadcasters, and there will be a lot of people saying that you are simply rabble-rousing, you're creating panic with all of this.
How am I creating panic, Eamon? I'm giving the data, which the other day I said, Doncaster Hospital celebrates 8 weeks without a COVID case. Someone put, oh, I'm sick of this, you're disgusting. Is that not great? Do you know why? Because when the flu season comes, the NHS is overwhelmed every single year, particularly in years like 2017, 2018, when 30,000 people died, excess deaths related to flu and cold conditions. We never heard about that because none of us knew this rolling count thing. It happens every year. But the fact is that before the flu season happens and before people are allowed to put things down as COVID death when maybe they haven't been tested, all I want to say to people is, 5 months ago, the wonderful doctors and nurses in the NHS, nobody knew about this is what they're telling me, nobody knew about it. But now we have dexamethasone, we have hydrocortisone, we have Remdesivir, we have proning the patients instead of putting them on ventilators. All I'm saying is that we don't need to go back, hopefully, to where we were 5 months ago.
Yes.
That's surely good news. That is not me rubbing
what you're saying to people who are maybe watching this at home today and are not in work, you're saying, let's stop all this lockdown business and get back to work. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm trying to allay the fears of people who think that if they go outside and touch somebody, they're going to die of coronavirus. There is more chance of us walking outside and being hit by a bus at the moment than dying of this virus at the moment.
I did hear again that he's the one that led that wrong. He questioned it all the wrong way by making it look like, well, you know, he put the panic back in there again when he started talking.
Yes, he sure did. And he said he accused her that she was trying to start a panic. And like she said, how is she making a panic? She's telling you what at the moment is going on, that there haven't been any deaths and that you have more chance of getting hit by a bus than catching the thing and dying of it. And then he tried to put words in her mouth, and he says, so what you're saying is telling the people at home watching, just go back to work. And that's not what she was getting at. She was just trying to show that we don't get to touch each other and all these crazy things that they've, told us to do. And he put trying words into her. Because he even kind of said it in America. I think he said at the beginning, let's say you're trying to create panic. And that's when she's like, how is this panic? I'm telling you not to panic in so many words. Because,
I just was going through her footage. You can see that she's quite frustrated, but I would be, because instead of really wanting to talk about what she's talking about, they're always going to put the other leads in, and it just frustrates you because, she knows what they're trying to do and what and he actually said, we can't talk about this, we can't talk about that. And she says, well, why don't you? Why don't you?
Exactly. That's right.
On to the next bit, Amy.
Okay.
And so why, therefore, are we still prioritizing this virus over everything else? The cancers are 500 a day. They always are. Heart disease. My GP friend told me in tears that she has had middle-aged men presenting on the phone, going through a heart attack because they will not go to their local hospital because we have frightened people into thinking that they're death zones. The local hospital she refers to has zero COVID and has had for weeks.
Let's hear what the doctor says.
Sorry, we had a man on the show last week whose cancer is now terminal because he couldn't get his treatment. And do you think that the people are too frightened to come out? The message needs to change. It's like, yes, we have to be careful, but we've got to stop being so frightened and be able to come out of our homes, go back to work, go back to hospitals, get your treatment.
Splutter, splutter, splutter. I can't actually say what I want to say, because if I say what I want to say, I might be done for a copyright strike, because you're not allowed to adhere or tell anybody about a remedy or try and help their lives. Are you, Amy? You're not allowed to do that anymore, are you?
I know, it's ridiculous.
You might talk about the fact that you're not feeling very good, and then people start writing in about remedies, and then you're going to get a strike for it. But
yes.
That's what she's... It's more like what I've just said.
Right, you're not allowed to offer remedies to people.
The doctor is. The doctor's allowed to have her say.
Right, yes. But, I mean, like they were saying that people are frightened if they're having a heart attack symptoms, they're frightened to get treated because...
But we all know, don't they, that you didn't want... The thing is, I've said it to someone else, actually. I said, if I have to go into hospital, make sure I don't go on a respirator.
Yes, that's right. The medical system is I learned through my dad. He had a battle with cancer, and the treatments were very, very destructive to him, probably more so than the cancer, and towards the end of his life, because he was so weakened by the cancer treatments. And so towards the end of his life, he had trouble swallowing. He became dehydrated. We took him to the hospital under the advice of the nursing staff. And the first thing the doctor wanted to do was put my dad on a respirator. And he told us that he would be dead within a few hours. And we were just shocked because we didn't expect something like that. We just thought we were going to give him fluids. I said, why would you put my dad on a respirator? He said, his lungs are a mess. But later we found out they weren't a mess. And I told the doctor I had to really make a bet. I said, you are not putting my dad on a respirator, and you will give him IV fluids, and then you're just getting home to us. So this was in 2019, right before this all started. And they were already pushing respirators and things.
Can I ask you something, Amy? I think we'll be allowed to say this because we're not offering it to anyone. It's something that's your own personal opinion.
Right.
If you knew what you knew now, but you could go back, what would you do with your dad?
Oh, I would have never even had him get a biopsy for his the brain tumor. I would have just...
The one thing we've learnt, and we've talked about it a little bit, is that biopsy is aggressive to what you've got. You really don't want them touching it.
Absolutely, and they insisted when doing a biopsy said they wouldn't even try to treat him for his cancer without a biopsy. But the MRI gives you all the information you need anyway.
And also we're learning, and I don't know why it comes out in these dribs and drabs when, you know, we've been around for a while and there've been medical books and it's been going on for such a while, but it seems that you could get cancer, what was it, 3, 4, 5 times in your lifetime, and you heal it yourself. And actually cancer isn't what they're telling us it is. It's actually there to help our bodies. And once you cut it out, you've taken out this part of the body that needs to just make it a million times worse.
Yes.
That doesn't mean, I mean, if your body decides to go into this, I don't know if you watched that program I told you about, Amy, when it was saying that cancers come through reasons and the different parts of the brains. If you get that bit, so say it's a death experience and that relates to that form of cancer, and then you get it, your body might keep going through this whole process over and over and over and over, and it actually makes it worse and makes more cancer. But the cancer's there to protect you.
Right.
It's the opposite of what they told us then, isn't it?
It is. I learned through my dad's experience that everything is the opposite.
And I still think, you know what, I was a farmer's wife once, and it was sheep, and he got toxoplasma in the flock. But, you know, if sheep turn themselves off, it takes them only a couple of hours to die. And I've just got this feeling that, you know, if you tell someone you're going to die, that's what happens.
I agree.
It's words that go into your subconscious, and, you know, maybe those that don't think about it and try not to involve it very much in their life and battle on in a good spirit and don't take all the medications, they last longer.
I truly believe that here.
I have the lady down the road doing that. She doesn't want to be cut up. She's just having some hormones, and she's been with it for over a year now, and she's got it in her breast, her bones, and her hips. So I mean, how much that sounds like she's invaded. But she had it on her leg, and then they gave her a body scan, and it showed these other places. But I just pray, because she's such a strong lady. And I've asked her. She said, I try not to put it in everyday life. She probably does, but she's doing really well.
Right. So that's awesome to hear. I really think that the mind can heal us.
She has been ill a few times, and I suppose it ends up being a mind over matter thing. But I'm very proud of her.
Oh, me too. I will certainly keep her in my prayers.
So that's the different side of it, not the farmer way. But anyway, should we move on, Amy?
Yeah, okay, Karen.
Oh, it's imperative that if you are not well, if you're getting any new symptoms, you need to discuss it with your GP. Unfortunately, with this coronavirus pandemic, we know that there were going to be the people that died from coronavirus, but there was also going to be the indirect deaths, those that died because they weren't able to get to hospital appointments, too scared to go to hospital appointments, and then also the long-term deaths, those that die as a result of, you know, not being able to get the education, the finance, all the other things that are needed to survive long term. And I think it's so important that, please, if you have symptoms, you must speak to your GP.
Okay,
and
guys.
At the moment, of course,
yes.
At the moment, people aren't putting their sick relatives into hospital because they won't be able to see them, and it's criminal.
Okay.
If the hospital is anyway. Sorry, I know I'm passionate about this.
But you're not alone, Denise.
Yes, that's a big reason why people do not want to send their relatives to hospital at all, or why people are afraid to go in, isn't it? If a relative goes in, you're not allowed to see them, and then these people die on their own.
Oh, I know. I think it's just awful, Karen. And, you know, I have a friend, her brother is in a rehab because he had a stroke, and he's in rehab, and she can't visit him. She had to shout at him through the window, and he had to throw his bank card down to her because she needed his bank card, you know, to pay for some of his bills. And he's miserable, and I just think it's cruel that they would not let people be with their loved ones when they're in the hospital. It's a very, very awful and cruel. And I just thank God that my dad, when he was going through his illness, that we didn't have this going when then. And my daughter has said...
Can I just say, Amy, on that score, though, you had something even worse to do at that point. The nurse, what did the nurse ask you to tell your dad?
told me to tell my dad to just let go, and told me I had to take him off the full code, change it to do not resuscitate, and told him to tell him it's okay for you to die. It's okay. Tell him, and and right in front of him too, and she was saying,
when your dad couldn't even talk to you and even express, excuse me, I'm here.
It was so awful. And yes, and my daughter said that she'd probably be arrested if this was if we have been going through it during this time where you cannot visit your relatives, because she said she would not take no for an answer. She said she'd probably be getting arrested or something, because
so what a horrible place to put the people, if that's how your sister feels about that. Imagine that it is happening for people. That really is happening.
Exactly.
And that's what Denise is angry about. Because what do you call the words? It's criminal.
It is. It's absolutely criminal and cruel and insane.
Yes.
Yes.
On to the next bit, Amy.
Okay.
Dr. Sarah, Denise, thank you both very much indeed.
Yes.
I think that was quite well done of her to try and get people to understand it's a little bit different, but the trigger words were used against her, so it's a bit weird, really, don't you think, Amy?
Yes, Karen. Yeah,
I'm surprised they let her do it.
What's that, Karen?
I'm surprised they let her do it.
Oh, I am too. Me too. I mean, they did their best to try to turn around what she was saying and stick to the narrative that it's an emergency, and
because she didn't really get to say what she wanted to say, because he said the laws, which means we can't, It was a shame we couldn't just hear them having a proper chat with each other. It all had to be totally political. It's something that, well, we already know what the answer to that one is.
Well, yes, but I think she got her point across the best she could. That
I know what we can do, because obviously we know she was a bit gagged. To the people watching this video, who understood, which one did you understand? Eamon and his wife, the doctor, or Denise? Which one did you get the point from of what she was trying? Well, who was trying to say what? I'd like to just know answers. Wouldn't that be good to see the people's answers, Amy?
It would. Yes, that I want the people to answer. I'd like that. Who they understood out of the three of them.
Or who was trying to say what, or trying to show what, or who was doing this and who was doing that. But anyway, Amy, anything else you want to say?
Oh, just thank you for sharing this with us, and I'm glad that it came into your feed so that we could all hear about it. It's lovely to hear somebody speaking for the truth and for the people, because it's terrible that they want the people to be in this much fear. And I have read that suicides has been up, and drug and alcohol abuse and so forth, and it's really cruel what they've done to the people. So I take my hat off to the lady for trying to explain the reality of it, so that people don't have to live in this fear, that we shouldn't even be afraid to hug our own relatives and everything. It's just really awful. So
and the good thing is, hoping that she's a real person, she's an actress.
Yeah, me too.
I'm not laughing at her, I'm just laughing at what we think actors are, because they're called the politics and the rest. So, the other day, even somebody told me about it. Have you seen Sparky Lee's latest one where, what was it, Martin Sheen, Elvis Presley, who was the other one? Paul McCartney and Trump. They're all mingled together. Oh. So anyway, that's your only fear when you've got an actress. But in a sense, if she's real, I appreciate very much that she stood up and said something, because it's about time someone did. Put it in perspective.
Yes. She had a wonderful message, and I'm
so
proud.
asking the group listening to this video, did you hear what she was trying to do?
Yeah, Yes.
Thanks, Amy. Amy, I love you much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Does love you, Karen. Thank you.